Okay, so welcome back to my channel. Okay, this is going to be a quick recap of Absentia Season 1, Episode 9, Child's Play. Okay, so it opens with Nick. He's still down in the woods after she shot at him, or shot him. And he's kind of struggling to get up. She's still running. Tommy finally catches up because, of course, he was still inside the asylum. I think he was either going through the paperwork. I can't remember what he was doing. But he eventually makes it out. He's trying to help Nick. Nick is like, no, go get her. You know, I'm fine. Da, 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 da. So Tommy runs after her, and he almost catches up with her. So she, this asylum, I mean, it has obviously has a lot of land, but I think it backs up against a rail station. And so she jumps the wall and she's running over the train tracks. And of course, the people are standing there like, "What the hell is she doing? What's wrong with her?" And of course, she's still wearing that role that she bribed the man at the asylum to give her. So people are like, "Oh my god!" And so she's falling all on the tracks, and the people eventually help her up because of course they don't know what's going on. And so she makes it to the train. So she jumps on the train and gets away. Basically, she gets away from Tommy. So Tommy basically puts in a call, basically saying she's on this train. She's went da 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 da. Okay, so he heads back to the asylum to make sure Nick is okay. At this time, an ambulance has come to pick up Nick, and that's when you see that he was wearing a bulletproof vest. And so Tommy was kind of looking at him like, he asked him, he said, "Does she know that you wear a vest?" Because he's trying to figure out if did she shoot to wound him? Like, was she really shooting him to wound him, or did she take a shot at him just to slow him down? And so, Nick even said that I think this was a whole ploy to slow us down. And so Tommy, they want to head back inside to talk to Charles. So at this point, they head back inside. Okay, we're gonna put a pin in that. So, so Alice wakes up. She's she's in the room. She wakes up and she realized that Flynn is gone again. Okay, and she finds some piece of metal or something, because the way the door was kind of made, the security door, it locks, but it's kind of blocked with wood. So it's like slats of wood. So she was able to find something to pry the screws out to take to pull the boards down. And I'm like, is this all part of an experiment or whatever? I don't know. It just seemed weird. Like that was just too easy. And so she gets out, and of course that's when you realize that she's underground. It's like she's like in a tunnel or something, and it's not well lit. So she's kind of trying to see her way around because she's trying to get to Flynn. And so she gets into the room just to see Flynn locked in this glass coffin, and the water is starting to pour in. So she was able to break a wooden table leg, and pop these padlocks off to get him out. Okay, I was like, okay, so in the beginning, the first episode, they had to do the same thing for Emily, but despite their best efforts, that padlock was on a timer, so once it reached a certain time, it actually just deactivated itself and fell off. But at the time, they was beating it with the guns and doing all they could to try to get this thing off, that lock off, and they couldn't get it off. But here there was 2 padlocks on the coffin he was in, and she was able to take a wooden table leg and just pop it off to get him out. I'm like, this was making me think that this was part of some experiment or something. I don't know. But so she gets him out. They goes to running, and she hits a dead end. Well, it looks like a dead end. So she turns around to run back, and next thing you hear a pop, and he actually shoots her with a tranquilizer. So of course now she's out again, and Flynn is standing there crying, and he's scared, doesn't know what's going to happen. And so that's basically how that scene ended. So it's like, okay, what now that she's gotten out? What are they going to do? What is he going to do with her? Or what is this person? Because at this point you still don't know who it is. What is this person going to do to her now? To them now? So Tommy and Nick, they go back into the asylum and talk to Charles. At this point, the doctor has sedated Charles because he obviously, from the altercation he had with Emily, I mean, it was a violent altercation, and he basically almost killed her. But of course, she got away with his book. So they're trying to find out everything they can about Charles and his connection to Emily and to the orphanage or whatever. And so the doctor was basically like, he's not in the state to talk to you right now. And of course, Nick is getting frustrated because he's like, okay, I'm trying to find out if he knows about Emily and how she took my family. I'm trying to find my family, trying to find out their connection, da 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 da. And so Tommy is basically trying to keep him calm while trying to get whatever information he needs to get from the doctor. And they bring up, and so Tommy ends up telling her everything about Dr. Shin, about the experiments, and and she took Peter in and basically said, okay, she basically said that he'll be okay to talk tomorrow. And they're like, we can't, it's too late. And so they eventually decided to wait. I guess she was going to do what she can to help him so they can at least try to talk to him, get him situated. So while they're waiting to talk to Charles, Crown calls and says that he promised that they identified the bodies, the rest of the bodies, and some of the bodies dated back. They was as old as 15 years old, which predates Harlow. And he was on his way to go talk to one of Harlow's, his ex-girlfriend, who actually filed sexual assault charges against him and another person. And so, that phone call ended, and they eventually go in to talk to Charles. And the doctor, when they were talking to the doctor, the doctor told them that he has like an imaginary friend that he talks to all the time. And so they're trying to now find out, okay, was this imaginary friend a real person at some point? Like, what is, was it another kid or a person? What's the connection here? And so they sit down to talk to him. And Tommy asked about Emily, and you can see he got noticeably upset, and he was like, okay, it's fine, we're not going to talk about that. And then he started asking him about his friend, and he was like, he got a little bit happy, and he was like, yeah, I have friends, and Tommy, she's trying to relate to him, I have friends too. And sometimes my friends do not so nice things. You can see Charles is shaking his head like, yeah, my friend has done some bad things. And he was saying that his friend hurts people, and he started asking him about the experiments with Dr. Chen, and he said that he basically mentioned about the experiments and how Dr. Chen would always promise them candy, like the air smelled like candy, and he would always promise them candy, but he never gave them candy, right? And so the doctor can see that he was getting agitated, so she basically ended the session, which was fine because Nick felt like he had already got all the information that he could get. Okay, so that's when they realized that there was an explosion at some factory where there was something that had to do with molasses during that time in the 90s, and he realized that it gave him a location. Because it's not too far from the orphanage or what was nearby, and so it did. And the air at the time did smell sweet, and so he was able to find out that the factory would never reopen as a factory. It became a warehouse. So now they're on their way to the warehouse. Okay, so Emily is on the train, and she's actually going through this book. So it's like it has a lot of handwriting and scribbles and drawings, so you can't really make out what's what. And then the conductor comes over the AP and says, I'm sorry, passengers, we're going to have to make an emergency stop. And then she already knew that what was up. And then you hear the helicopter. So she jumps up and she pulls the emergency brake. And of course the train stops. She jumps off and she makes a run for it. So she goes to some residence. I don't even know what that place was. But she broke in and set the alarm off. And she saw this huge aquarium that for whatever reason drew her attention. And she walks over and she looks at it. And of course, you can see that she's having flashbacks about being in the water, and then she leaves. Okay, so she didn't actually take anything. So she goes to this hotel, and she kind of sneaks in through I guess this would be the service entrance. I don't know. She kind of passes the kitchen or whatever, and makes it upstairs, and she sees the housekeeper cleaning, and she was able to get the housekeeper's master key off the cart, and she goes into one of the rooms. And so the next thing you know, she heads downstairs to there's like this party going on. I think she went downstairs to go to the business center to look something up on the internet. And so she walks through the crowd of people and finds she's sitting at the computer, and she noticed that this guy was he looked at her a little too long, and then he walked through the doors. And so she was already kind of like, okay. And then she looks up, and now it's like three guys kind of looking, and they're whispering, and so she knew something was up. So she grabbed her coat and ran up. They ran after her, and it was this whole big thing, this whole big chase. And somehow she ends up getting the drop on them and locking them all in the freezer and getting away. Okay, Emily. So she goes out through the garage, and at this point, you see police cars arriving. So of course, all that ruckus, the police was called. So she sneaks out, and she was able to sneak into the back of a truck, and not inside the actual truck, inside the part where the boxes and the crates and stuff are. She gets in there, and she calls Jack and asks Jack to look up some company that I can't recall right now, and they made fish tanks and stuff like that. So she's in the back. I don't even remember how she got out the back of this truck, but he decides he's going to call the reporter who wants the scoop. And so he was basically saying that you're going to be the first to get the story, but I need you to do some research on that. And so the next thing you know, he calls her, and the reporter calls her back, Jack back, sorry, and says that, before she even told him what was up, you could tell it was something big, because she was like, I'm going to give you 24 hours, but I'm going to have to report on this. I can't let this go. I'm going to have to report on this. And Jack is like, what the hell? What is going on? What did you find out, right? Okay, so at some point during this, Crown is sitting down with Harlow's ex-girlfriend. And she was talking about how, basically trying to recount the night that she was raped by two people, Harlow and somebody else. And so, she, basically recounted what happened, how, he drugged her. She felt like she was, thought she was drugged, and, everything that went on that night. And, like, she started out, he wasn't always this monster. She said she doesn't know what happened to him, what changed, but she knows it had something to do with his family. And Harlow came from a wealthy family. And so, which explains why he wasn't prosecuted. I don't know if she decided not to press charges, or initially pressed charges and decided not to go forward with it, whatever the case may be. But he said, okay, so now we know that at this point Harlow is dead. He died. He was killed in the second episode, I believe. First or second episode. But she was like, now, because this is what got me right. So he was like, okay, so I need the name of the second man that assaulted you. And she kind of looked at him and was like, who said it was a man? So it's like, oh, okay. Okay, so around this time, Jack is calling Emily back. And he says to her that he found out that the tank was ordered. There was a tank ordered from Tri-King 7 years ago. Now, of course, she disappeared. At this point, I don't know how long this chase is going. It has to be another year. So she was gone for technically 6 years. But he's saying this tank is saying that it was ordered 7 years ago. And he said it was delivered to ... address. And she wanted to know something North End, right? And so she asked, who ordered it? And at first he was hesitant, and he was like, well, it's showing that you ordered it. So, of course, she was like, no, I'm being set up. No, that wasn't me. I didn't order it. And so he was like, I saw the invoice. It's your signature. You ordered it. And so, of course, it's like, what? See, I kept telling y'all. Emily, girl. Okay. So she decides she's going to go to the address, right? And of course, the address is the warehouse. So now you have Emily, Nick, and Tommy at this warehouse at the same time. But of course, at this point, they don't know this. So she's kind of milling around in there, and she can see they're using flashlights, so she can see their flashlights. So she's able to kind of navigate around them. I don't even think she knew it was them. She just knew there was people there. So she, stops in some room, and she walks over to, obviously it's a dark room. It's an abandoned warehouse, broken and busted out windows, so it's not like it's been operational for any amount of time. And so she walks over, and she pulls some photo off the window. And the next thing you know, you hear this loud crash. And so, of course, they all three stop, in their respective locations. They stop, and they're trying to figure out, what the hell is that noise? So Tommy and Nick go to investigate, and it was some guy like moving some stuff, some homeless guy, and was tossing some stuff. I don't know if it was bricks or wood or whatever. And that was what was making the noise. But it gave her it distracted them long enough for her to run out. So she leaves out. They continue on with their search. They make it to the room, and they realize there's nothing here. And so Nick is by the window, and he looks out the window, and he sees there's like a storefront across the way, and he runs out. He runs out, and Tommy goes out behind him like, what's going on? And he noticed these masks in the window. And I don't know if the kids mentioned the mask, or I forget where the mask came in. But Nick is looking in the window, and he's like, these children are describing this. Oh, I think the children were describing the mask. He said these children were describing the mask long before they even knew who Harlow was, right? And Nick eventually comes to the conclusion that he's basically saying he doesn't think that Emily was his accomplice. He thinks that Emily was Harlow's mentor. So of course Tommy is sitting there, and I'm sitting there like, oh shit, what the hell is going on? What? Okay, so he runs off. So now Emily is trekking through the woods again, because this photo was of some random area in the woods, right? So it just looked like the middle of nowhere woods, like you wouldn't even pay any attention to it, which I'm assuming was the point. So she gets out there and she goes to this place, and she looks down and she realizes there's a a manhole or something, and she opens it. She calls Nick, and she basically tells him that she's close to saving Flynn. She wants him to come meet her, and don't bring the police, because if you bring the police in, the person might end up killing Flynn and Alice. And of course he agrees. I'm like, that's a damn trap. She's trying to set his ass up at this point. Like, Emily, I don't trust you, bitch. I never liked you. Anyway, so at least that's how I felt when I first heard that. I'm like, that sounds like some craziness. But so I guess Nick thought he just slipped on out, right? He was like, okay. But Tommy saw him, so I'm assuming at some point Tommy's going to start following him and follow him to that manhole. And so it ends with Emily going down the manhole. So that's basically how it ended. So we got one more episode, and if this ends stupid, I'm gonna be so mad. Sorry, I'm gonna be so upset if this ending is so ridiculous. But I will talk to you guys later.